Yeah, let's hold thumbs and see what we can do. Okay. When you see me looking down like this, I'm looking at you. But the main camera is up there. Okay, cool. So we're live. And Claire, welcome to Coffee and Conversations, finally with champions. So it's awesome to have you on. And
Kia ora koutou.
yeah, so that I'm taking it is a local greeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. Awesome. So,
Kia ora or kia ora koutou for greetings to lots of people.
oh, awesome. Okay, cool. That's a cura corte. Did I butcher that totally?
Ah,
Okay, yeah,
a
yeah,
little.
yeah. Oh, fair enough. Sorry, yeah, not my skill set. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then we're going to chat about reffing in New Zealand and primarily refereeing development. And you guys have grown phenomenally well, and you really are doing phenomenally well, which is great because we keep beating you in the rugby. That's just kidding. Going to get some comments now. All right, yep, go for it. Okay, give us a little bit about your background. You sent me an awesome bio, but let me let you run through that.
Sure. So I started strength sports age 31
Sure.
in CrossFit, and I've
Hmm.
competed weightlifting and strongman. Found powerlifting about 7 years ago. Uh, I love it through strength sports, through teaching my body to be strong.
Hmm.
I've found myself. I've found who I am.
Sure.
And that's what I love about my ongoing involvement with it, with the back end and with the administration, is watching that happen for other people.
Hmm.
There's nothing more joyful than watching people find their own strength. So I am competitive. I hope to return to competition.
Hmm.
Been battling long COVID for a year now, so it's not very often. I only get a few weeks at a time
Yeah,
training regularly before I tend to get sick again. But I'm learning to manage it, and I'll get there.
and
I've been
you've got to be hyper vigilant with that because you push
yes,
it too far, and then it can take you out for quite some time.
yes, and of course I'm impatient. I love lifting,
Yeah,
so it's quite tricky. But in the
100%.
meantime, I'm being kept very happy. And even when I am training hard myself, I'm quite involved in the administration side of powerlifting. I'm secretary for our local association, which covers Otago and Southland, the
Okay.
bottom part of the bottom part of the South Island of New Zealand. And I'm also referee development officer for the New Zealand Powerlifting Federation. So we've got nationals coming up
Hmm.
in starting on the 5th of September. So super excited for that. Getting some referee exams organised just today for new
Awesome.
national referees.
Right. Oh, brilliant. So, why is it so important for you guys to be driving referee development?
Um, Back 2018, we had fairly significant split with World Powerlifting, and
Okay.
had a large number of our older lifters
Hmm.
and most of our international referees left. Um, so we quickly needed some more national referees. I had I'd come on as referee development officer alongside Rory Lynch.
Okay.
He's a fresh category two referee then, and I've been grateful to have been mentored by him, working
Mhm.
alongside him to bring up we the first nationals when it was just we felt so young and inexperienced, but we managed to get I think 7 new national referees qualified, and
Wow.
now
Okay.
we're up
That's
to
fantastic.
25 national referees in New Zealand.
Okay.
We've That's the back end infrastructure of the sport. We
Mm.
absolutely need that to run competitions,
Yeah.
but then at the high level to so that our good athletes can perform to an international standard, they
Hmm.
need to be used to the international standard of refereeing.
That's such an important point because, usually in South Africa's or provincial competitions or, even at club comp level, they're looking, the lifters and the coaches are sometimes looking for a little bit more leniency. and then when they move into international level, they get a shock. So I think it's something that's been introduced a few years ago as well within South Africa to up the standard. And every competition you should be potentially like a club comp for first time lifters, be a little kinder, but for the referee, for the athlete and the coach, I think it's vital that they get used to international standards very quickly. So it's a great call, because you don't want to be making it to an international and bombing on depth or foot placement or these kind of things.
Yes, absolutely. I've just in my time, I've seen the standard rise so high. My very first nationals, 2015,
Right.
I wore a homemade soft suit,
Okay.
a off-brand belt,
Yeah.
and they let me because I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
They were kind, and I was grateful for it at the time. But of course, that doesn't wash even at
Yeah.
local competitions now.
Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. And I think when you raise the level of the sport, you raise the people's willingness to want to join because they're seeing it as more professional. And I don't, I arrived in a t-shirt and cargo shorts for my first competition. I didn't even know about the singlet. So my coach said, "Where's your singlet?" I was like, "What's a singlet?" So I'm not wearing one of those. How have you
There's
found
also
the oh sorry, how have you found the development of the referees driving or assisting the growth in the sport? Because your numbers have grown quite substantially. I think you're on 2,000
yes.
affiliated lifters, if I'm not mistaken.
Um, Oh, I'm not quite sure of the numbers,
Okay.
sorry. But yes, they have grown. Down
Mm,
here, where we are in Southern, we're the
mm,
smallest of the provincial federations. So
okay.
in some ways, we're a year or two behind the bigger cities about what our needs are, but it does
Mm,
follow that same curve.
okay.
Um, we have had times when we're very short of qualified volunteers who are available because
Mm,
even though you only need 3 referees in TC, of course, people have families and jobs and things going on. We
mhm.
need more than that. And we're just getting to the point where we reliably can have a TC. We even sometimes have a one-person jury at our
Right.
bigger competitions.
Yeah.
Um,
Fantastic.
but it's not just the actual refereeing at the standard of the lifts in the
Mm,
competition too. There's that back end, working
yeah.
with the organisers or being the organisers and
Hmm.
making sure the timing is as it should be, that
Right.
the stage, that the platform is set up according to the rules,
Hmm.
that those standards are adhered to as well, so that right from the beginner level, people are used to the same thing, the same timing, the same standards.
Right, 100%. So they're also very involved sort of in the equipment checks, the making sure the platform's set up with the weigh-ins, getting the cards completed, getting all the documentation done up front, and assisting the organizers with that, right? What are the processes for becoming sort of a referee within New Zealand? Are you starting club comp, then sort of provincial, national, and then your Cat 2 and Cat 1? What's the process? Can you walk us through that?
Well, good question, because I've just rebooted that process within New Zealand.
Hmm.
It was, I came up under a system that was designed pre-internet,
Right,
and then we had a South Island referee examiner and a North Island referee examiner who would physically travel around to
right.
take referees through a written exam,
Hmm.
and that was hand marked. Um,
Wow.
that had been updated to an online exam,
Hmm.
but we still had a rules seminar and exam supervised by video call like we're doing now.
Right,
Then so that was just a theory exam, and then a referee was qualified and send them their badge or give them their badge, and then they would go away and we might not see them again. um,
right.
and then so we've rebooted that end of it. Now we've got a fairly intensive, quite long, quite
Hmm.
picky open book exam.
Right.
It's designed so that the candidate will study the rule book over and over again. They have to read it very thoroughly, and the
Brilliant.
questions are very detailed. So it is open book, but this exam means that they will be they're read all the relevant bits of the rule book. That was another part of the redesign. We're not asking questions about the finer details of international competition,
Hmm.
just the things that lifters will need to know, that referees will need to know at the provincial level.
Right.
But so they do that exam. They need a very high mark to pass. They can do
Hmm.
it as many times as they like, though.
Okay. Oh,
And it's
on
also
that day as
open.
well. So,
Yes, it's open book, and it's also open for anybody to take. For example, spot loaders or coaches who want to use it as
okay.
a study tool to help them learn the rules.
Oh, brilliant.
But they're not
Got a comment there?
finished when they when they do the hey Jarek
Yeah.
when they do the theory exam. After that, they need to actually referee.
Yes.
And I check with either the head referee or the meet director that they showed up, they're in their uniform, they did a competent job as a first time referee.
Hmm.
Then I'll send them their badge and then they're fully qualified.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
that's the provincial referee level.
Mm.
And next up from that, after they've been a
So
referee for 2
provincial,
years, and
provincial's
yes,
first level.
yes.
That's
So we
okay.
made away with the club
Hmm.
referee level because that wasn't relevant.
Mm.
Then we had provincial, so we've got just provincial as your starting level referee.
Right.
Then national referee. So we're about to do some more exams at nationals. Then people have a short closed book theory exam,
Hmm.
often to do partly with the higher level international rules. And then they head referee an entire session at nationals
Okay.
while I sit there and mark them,
Yeah.
check that they're doing it right. After that,
Right.
they're a national referee.
Oh, fantastic. How
So
long
that
is the gap between provincial? Is there a time frame that they have to work? A certain number of competitions?
yes, 2 years and at least two provincial championships, ideally at least two club competitions as well.
Okay.
Um, yes, and we're finding interestingly, a few years ago, we had to ask and plead and prod people into becoming qualified.
Hmm.
It's fairly competitive these days. We've got, as people want to be involved, more and more
Mm.
people, where the standard of referees is getting really high.
Sure. Okay. Fantastic. So that's almost becoming a bit of a competition as well.
Well, that's what we hoped, that standard, as there's more and more
Mm.
referees, as meet directors are able to pick and choose their referees, we are
Ah.
getting consistently high standard. Rather, saying that, the
Mm-hmm.
people who want to become referees, they do because they love the sport.
Yes.
They want it to do well, so they tend to be people who are doing their best to do a good job anyway.
No, that's brilliant. The I think I love the idea of the open book test for provincial referee because it teaches you how to reference the rule book. And that sometimes you need to jump to quickly at a competition. So which is a great way to I think you learn it a lot quicker being able to do that. It's a great idea. With the growth in the referee level, are you finding sometimes that guys aren't getting an opportunity now to ref at nationals or at provincials?
Um, yes, I think that is just starting to become a problem.
Hmm.
The volunteer schedule at this national champs that's upcoming is full, which is surprising. It's
Wow.
usually a bit of a desperate push in the
Yeah,
last few
yeah.
days to fill up the gaps, but we have enough, um, which is absolutely fantastic. And a problem that we have found is some new referees are finding it difficult to get experience in the chair because we
Right.
have enough referees. So we do need
Mm.
to just keep an eye on that.
Right. Are you bringing in juries as well as something as an opportunity to give extra experience?
Yes, yes. As much as we can, we have
Mm.
juries.
Right.
Usually, at the up till now, we haven't quite had enough people at the provincial level. But our nationals competition, I think the first day there's still a couple of gaps, but otherwise we have full juries for each session.
It's absolutely fantastic. That's really
It
cool.
really is.
Yeah.
I'm very proud.
It's a great. You've done a great job. What have you found with the coach? I mean, so is it also coaches that are doing the referee workshops and then refereeing?
Well, quite a few coaches are qualified referees, which is
Right.
fantastic because
Yeah.
we want them to know the rules. But practically, they're busy with their lifters.
Right.
They don't tend to actually get the cheers very often.
Yeah. So, how have you found the lifters developing a sensitivity to referees and the challenges and the difficulties of refereeing once they've sat in the chair?
No, they're great. All of the yeah, any lifter who has been a referee, they fully understand, and
Yeah.
you'll find them never arguing with referees or anything. Not that many people do.
Yeah.
We do find I'm not sure about um your club, your
Mhm.
country, but where we are here, people don't tend to argue. They're pretty good at respecting the referees,
Mm.
and we do if there is a dispute, if there is an argument, it's actually a good learning opportunity.
Mhm.
Um, when there is a problem, or if a referee does make a genuine mistake, it's a really good opportunity for
Mhm.
everybody to check, okay, what's the rules here? What should have happened?
Yes.
And what to do about it next time. So it's not when odd things happen, it's not such a big deal anyway. That's how we get better.
Right. 100%. And it's, you know, I think as a coach, you start to develop a better understanding of the platform when you've worked as a referee, what to look for, how to keep your, because you're seeing athlete after athlete coming on and you're seeing the same challenges that they're facing, potentially the same mistakes that they're making. So it is a great way to develop that. If there are the minimum requirements for your referees to maintain their status, is there, or is it once you're a referee at that level?
No, you need to keep experienced. Need to stay a referee. You need to have done at least 2 meets within 4 years.
Okay.
But yeah,
And then, so
yeah,
walk
we
us
do
through the
find
process. So, how does someone get in? How does someone become a referee, even if they haven't lifted and they think this is something they'd like to do? What's the process?
well, just anybody can do the theory
Mhm.
exam. That's just fine. Um, they will need they will need to done that do that, and then they will need to show that they're serious about it. They'll need to convince the meet director to let them have a go in the referee chair. And the meet director, if they've got multiple people asking to do that, the meet
Mhm.
director is going to ask the person who they think is going to do the best job, which is probably going to be somebody who has some experience lifting, who has a good amount of
Mhm.
experience around powerlifting competitions. So there's some quality control in there.
Okay, 100%. Talk us through your experience with the community of powerlifting in New Zealand. What's it like? What does it mean to you? If you can give us a bit of insight into that.
Oh, I love it. There's just amazing people. I find that probably a slightly odd bunch of people,
Hmm.
determined people who don't mind working very hard towards their goals. Um, I remember with my very first international, I was in a 8-seater car in Canada with a bunch of New Zealand powerlifters, and I have a graduate degree, and I was the least qualified person in the car. We're all powerlifters, and they're all masters or PhD, just randomly. That seems to be,
Yeah.
of course, there is a really wide cross section of people in powerlifting, but there does seem to be a big amount of highly educated people. Um, but that is something I particularly love about powerlifting is and in New Zealand too, is the genuine accessibility and inclusiveness.
Hmm.
In my club, we've got a strong Special Olympics contingent, and they compete right alongside us, right up to a national level. One of our local guys actually holds some of our club records in the under 66 open men's. Um, he has Down syndrome, and he's a great competitor who's always shows up, a genuine friend. Where that's the inclusivity in powerlifting isn't an add-on; it just is. With the
Right.
different age classes and with the weight classes, there's just such a wide variety of people in powerlifting.
Oh, that's
Um,
yeah, it's a very, very special sport.
yes, yes,
And
I believe so.
you know, what we find is, well, the community is so supportive because, you know, the guys you are competing against are the ones that are helping you rap in the back or helping you warm
Yep.
up, and you're all helping one another. I think maybe it's sort of the warm up area that helps that camaraderie come through. And it's, the stronger you get, the stronger I have to get. It's, it's absolutely wonderful. What are your
Absolutely.
what is your vision going forward for refereeing and for powerlifting in New Zealand? What do you plan to make happen,
Well,
and what would you love to make happen?
our our nationals is getting really, really big.
Hmm.
So we'll be discussing at the upcoming nationals with the National Executive Committee what to do about that, because the whole competition, 264 lifters entered for nationals, which is a huge deal for our small local clubs who are all run by volunteers to
Yes.
do to run that. So we need to talk about what to do about that. Either it seems the options are either splitting nationals off into masters and juniors and open
Hmm.
as two separate events, or raising the qualifying standards even higher. And
Right.
already they're high. So that's something to work on in the next few weeks with New Zealand Powerlifting, is make some decisions about that. We have 3 Kiwis going to Sheffield.
What?
Absolutely stoked. Tim
That's
Monagatti.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tim lives in my town here in Queenstown.
Yeah.
Evie, who of course won last year, and Carlina Tongatea, who's she won at Worlds as well. So 3 Kiwis at Sheffield. That's something to be super proud of at Sheffield, and looking forward to it. I think that with this rise in popularity, with the accessibility of the sport,
Hmm.
and we've got I feel like we've got a pretty solid infrastructure. There's always improvements to be made,
Mm.
always ways in which we could be a bit better organized or slicker. But with our bunch of volunteers, I feel like we do have the infrastructure to take that sport as it is, so that we've got these more and more athletes rising to the absolute top of the international game.
Hmm.
And here's hoping, fingers crossed, I'm really looking forward to it, powerlifting becomes an Olympic sport.
Yeah.
And I hope that in New Zealand, we've got that infrastructure ready so that we can get some serious government funding into it,
Mm.
start having some actual employees, and be ready to have our sport at that level.
I think on that point, and it's such lots of thumbs up coming up now. There we go. 22 thumbs up and 3 hearts. Fantastic. Um, people are loving that comment. So on that point, what is the support for the athletes, in term financial support? What's available for athletes and coaches? Is there any sort of government support, or is it all self-funding? Is there sponsorship from local businesses? Talk us through that.
Um, on a national level, I
Mm.
think we get $5,000 a year from the New Zealand government to
Oh,
fund youth sport development.
okay.
It's not very much. It doesn't go very far at all. Um, we have the NZPF has some money, and we give some money to officials and athletes who are representing New Zealand, but it nowhere near covers costs. Maybe
Right.
10% if they're
Hmm.
good at budgeting their travel. Um, there is local community funding groups. In the past, I've had the community, excuse me, community trusts um, sponsor me to go overseas.
Hmm.
It's still generally not enough. Athletes crowdfund, they sell T-shirts, and they just work extra hours as well as training extra hard and fund themselves.
Yeah. If you were seeing more sponsorship coming through from government level, from businesses or community, what would that mean to the athletes? What would that mean to the level of powerlifting in New Zealand?
It would make life easier for the athletes.
Right.
Of myself, when the one time I went to Worlds, I was working 4 jobs. Quite often, my training started after 10 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
It's I Chances are I would have done better if I didn't have to work quite so many hours to pay my way. And I know there'll be a lot of athletes, if not most of them, in the same position, needing where their performance could have done better with a bit of extra funding just to cover costs.
Hmm.
Um, if we get to the level where we've got full-time professional athletes, boy, that would be exciting.
Yeah.
I would love to see what people can
Yeah.
actually do if performing in powerlifting was their job.
Right. Let's chat about the Olympics. And I always like to get this out there because I think it's a laddered process where there's multiple ladders that we have to move up in order to get there. You need the Olympics to get the funding. You need the funding to get the performance, to get to get the Olympic guys interested. I mean, it's an old conversation already in the sport, and I think with weightlifting, should we say, moving on, it's something that is really needed because I think that Olympic weightlifting is a great sport, but it's 6 lifts. Here you're bringing 9 lifts, so there's far more audience participation. You're putting your heart and soul into your squat and your bench press, but then it's fought out in the deadlifts. The coaches get a chance to show their skills, their understanding of the athlete, and the understanding of the competition as well. For you, what would I think if I could say just what would the Olympics, if you're talking now to the IOC, right? What would what would the Olympics mean to powerlifting in terms of New Zealand? I mean, there's the funding, there's the recognition, but we can walk through that. Because I'm going to get everyone I speak to in every country to say the same thing, and then we're going to bully them into it. Okay.
Fantastic. If we could have a few, even one, but a few full-time admin positions
Mhm.
within New Zealand powerlifting to look after that back end, that infrastructure, to
Yeah.
hustle up funding, to hustle up media attention. If we could get that through some government funding, which we'd get through IOC, but the sport would explode because it
Mm,
is already so accessible. All
mm,
you need is a gym membership or some equipment at home to become
mm,
a good powerlifter. It would be amazing to see so many people who maybe like me, like sport, but a bit clumsy, never figured out what they're good for, good at. We can there'll be so many people who can find themselves through powerlifting.
mm,
I would just love to have that funding, that infrastructure. There's so many of us now who love it and pour so many hours into it. It would be wonderful to see that next generation take off where it actually becomes professional with people being paid to do what we do now.
to do what they love.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and to do what that love of seeing other
Mm,
people
yeah.
achieve through it.
Absolutely, and it is the most incredible sport for so many reasons. If we look at it, you mentioned youth development. You look from a youth development point, particularly kids from challenged backgrounds, so from challenged communities where there are distractions that are not so healthy. So the drug problems, alcohol problems, gambling, crime. Powerlifting, because it's linear and it's progressive and it's relatively simpler to coach than other sports. You can have a basic understanding of the movements to do it safely. It's a great way to get kids off the street, and we've seen it here where um, where you have, particularly with the young guys, they would rather be in the gym working because they don't want their mates to beat their numbers than be out on the street and getting into trouble. So we have a message here for you from John. So
Hey, John, thank you.
yeah,
Yes, I am. I am passionate about it.
good. So with that sort of in mind, how's the support been from sort of local businesses or from businesses in New Zealand for the athletes? Is there a sponsorship opportunity there? Is there sponsorship there? Is anything happening? How can they get behind and support the sport?
On a big level, on a national level, no, there
Mm,
isn't sponsorship. On individual level, yes. Local businesses, usually through knowing somebody,
mhm,
friends of friends, will help out, which is we're very grateful for. Hey, I'd like to speak to you. You talked
mm,
about the um, young guys who could
mm.
be in trouble if they're not in the gym.
Yep.
Um, my daughter's just turned 17. She's a good kid.
Mm,
But she's so at age I'm sure that many of our female lifters and some of our male would have had the same issue as teenagers. very body
Yeah.
conscious, very struggling with body image and self-esteem. I'm so proud of my 17-year-old who is lifting to get strong. She's eating for a big deadlift. She's really happy to go to the gym and get sweaty and push around some weights
Yeah.
for the love of doing it and the enjoyment of getting stronger every week. I
Mm,
wish that I had that. I'm so
mm.
happy that she's getting that. And I'm just delighted that we've got a bunch of teenagers and teenage girls competing at nationals who've been doing just that at the gym, enjoying getting strong and eating to get strong and looking after their bodies because of what they can do without worrying about what they look like.
That 100%. It's about what we can do. It's not about what we look like. It's just,
Yes.
and and I think I was not sporty at school as well. I mean, I was chairman of the Photographic Society and a librarian, so you can imagine. But the thing that I've also
Mhm.
seen is, so for you get the sporty kids and the non-sporty kids, and usually with the bigger kids, the bigger girls, and the bigger guys, there's not, maybe with the bigger guys there's opportunity for rugby, but sometimes with the bigger girls they're feeling excluded and left out. And then they have an opportunity to come and compete, and they realize how strong they are and how amazing they are, and what their bodies can
Absolutely.
do. It's phenomenal. We have a lifter here in South Africa. I haven't seen her at comps for a while, but Tracy Ludwig, and Tracy's in the 84 plus, first girl to deadlift 200 kilos in South Africa, and she was telling me a story that their coach at their little gym, which is in a garage in Durban, the ice cream van would come past at the end of their session, and if she got her numbers, then they could have an ice cream, and that's just loving what your body can do and loving what I just thought that's the most wonderful story, and it shows the caring, loving community within a small gym and then within the sport itself. That understanding
Yes.
that it's new. Yeah, there we go. We need a T-shirt with this: nutrition for numbers. On the bar, not on the scale. Huh? So I'm eating more to lift more. That's fine. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I mean, what would that have meant to you? What have you seen with your daughter, with her friends? A little bit more on that. Such an important point.
Um, I don't know how much is to do with lifting, as my daughter's on her own journey as teenagers are.
Hmm.
But it's good to see her. She's developed her own gym habits. She goes along usually 4 times a week,
Hmm.
just gets herself there. She's arranged her own membership. She's fully self-motivated. Sometimes trains alongside me, but being a teenager, I think would prefer not to.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. You're
I
very
have
brave
I've
mentioning her here as well. So wish you good luck for later.
she has had she's had the opportunity to hang around my friends.
Hmm.
A good friend, Carly Dillon, is a full-time powerlifting coach in New Zealand, and she's been a really good influence on my daughter Lucy. She's since last time she spent some good time with her, that's when she's been working hard on her deadlift and keeping me updated about how much she lifts and remembering to eat her protein.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. And it's just, it's a very, very healthy place to spend your time, the gym.
Yes, yes,
Good
it is.
people, good
Um,
community. Yep. Oh, what have you, I mean, I think Paul, oh, sorry. Okay. You go first. So we have a bit of a lag.
um, I did when I was in a previous house, which had a big garage. I ran a
Mm,
little community garage powerlifting gym, and I had classes just twice a week.
mm,
And it was mostly women in their 50s from my community. And I got to watch them find their own strength. So that was wonderful. Learn teaching older women to make friends with their bodies.
sure. Yeah. That's that. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. And it's a simple, beautiful, wonderful way to see. And we had a competition at Barbell Bullies this weekend. It was a fun comp. And to see all of these first time lift competition lifting moms. So where they had been training maybe for a year or two, come out for their first competition, they were more excited than the teenagers and loving, rediscovering their bodies, loving what their bodies could do, not worrying about, sort of what they're looking like. I think that's just another incredible value and benefit of the sport, which is, it's put a big smile on my face. Uh, you guys have done such an exceptional job of growing the lifting in New Zealand. And I just want to, how have you done it? Because you sort of, I know when I spoke to Veronica earlier, a couple of weeks ago, it was about, sort of changing of the old guard and a lot of youth coming in. Sort of, what was that process like? How did that work?
I think it was a lot to do with
You-
TikTok,
You're getting
and I'm not even on TikTok.
okay,
Maybe Instagram.
right?
The stars, the influencers taking
Hmm.
up powerlifting.
Right.
Um, there's Yeah, I think that's quite a bit to do with that,
Hmm.
rather than anything specific that we've done. And we just hope that we're there to help them when they do get in touch with us and say, "Hey, I'm interested in competing, or I want to know
Hmm.
more about powerlifting." We're able to help them from then
Right.
on. That's something, if we had more volunteer hours, it would be really fun to do some outreach. And coaches do that.
Hmm.
Quite a few powerlifting gyms do that, but we don't have any specific powerlifting gyms here in Queenstown, so it's not something we've been doing.
Okay, that's I mean, the community that's running powerlifting is a little bit younger, from what I understand, than it was before, and I suppose embracing the social media aspect of that. The energy there is absolutely fantastic. And having spoken to a few New Zealand lifters, and the passion is unbelievable. I mean, do you think it's something, not just the sport, but also the culture in New Zealand?
Possibly.
Mm.
Yeah, we're quite sporty. We tend to be quite independent, and powerlifting suits an independent type
Yes.
because you know what it's like when it's you in the bar. You have no choice but to but to
Yeah.
lift the thing. Nobody else is going to lift the
Yeah. No matter how much you ask. Um,
thing.
Absolutely. That's it. So I think from our side, I mean, I've pretty covered pretty everything that we really wanted to. How do people get involved in the sport? How do people get involved in reffing? What are the contact details? What's the process? They just message on WhatsApp, on Instagram, or
Yes, generally Instagram or Facebook.
okay.
In my role in Southern Powerlifting, I'll often be one of the ones answering the questions, and refer them to Southern Powerlifting. Covers a
Hmm.
wide area, so where do they live? And we'll can usually refer them to some of our members who live near them and recommend they go meet up at one of the local gyms. There is a great powerlifting gym in Invercargill, and there's the event centre in Queenstown where we tend to meet, although it's not a powerlifting specific gym. And then there's others in Dunedin, places
Hmm.
where powerlifters go. So we could recommend them just to gyms.
Hmm.
Um, Often just following the social media, the lifters, the coaches find out about powerlifting. Going along to a local competition is a great way to get a feel for the sport. And if somebody's fairly experienced at gym lifting, that they kind of know what they're doing, but they're not ready to compete themselves, I often recommend they spot load at a competition.
Hmm.
That's a fantastic way
Yeah.
to get some competition experience without actually having to do it.
And a great calorie burn.
Yes,
I,
yeah. Oh,
I
it's
got
really fun. I
yeah,
love doing that.
I got to work with the South African team, and they very kindly made me an honorary member of the South African spotting and loading team now in Hong Kong. And I think
Oh.
with one session, they had scheduled 6 hours for, and I think we did it in like 3 hours and 40 minutes, 3 hours and 45 minutes. It was terrifying, but really exciting. It was like working with a Formula One pit crew. You don't want to be the guy finishing last and holding up your your station. I've never,
Yeah.
and all I was doing was changing safeties and rack heights. So on one half of the thing, but it was a lot of fun. Absolutely, that is the most fun I've ever had at a competition. So you're spot on with that. Get involved, get a little bit of spotting and loading going. It's too much fun. Just before we wind down, if anyone watching has any questions, please post it in the comments. Fire it off, and then Anna, from your side, is there anything that you would like to add?
Um, I think we've covered things. I've got to talk about powerlifting, which is something that it's hard to shut me up about. So I
Yeah,
appreciate the opportunity.
nothing wrong. I think we have to do one of these. Yeah.
Yay.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Right, well, then, thank you so much for your time. We apologize to our viewers and also to you for the technical difficulties at the start. I think I know what the problem is, and it's this bloke over here that's packed up, my dongle. So that's where all the HDMIs and everything go in. Literally, it was fine. I was popping down to make a cup of coffee, but we also have load shedding now in South Africa, which wasn't scheduled, but so no power. But yeah, so anyway, but Anna, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. Glad that you are feeling better, and we want to wish you a full and speedy recovery getting back on the platform.
You're most welcome. Thank you so much, Nicholas, and everybody who's jumped in.
Yeah, it was awesome. All right, I'm going to end the broadcast and then I'll just chat to you quickly when we're off air. All right, thank you, everyone.